Good morning, and thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be discussing management, and in particular, how we can develop more effective managers. So to do this, we're going to walk through our Everything DiSC management profile, and I'll be able to show you how this can be used as part of your business to develop effective managers. Now, as we go through the profile, and in particular looking at the skills that it's focused on, I want you to have a think about how effective you think your own management is, and that of the managers within your company or that you work with. So hopefully we can get some self-reflection and you can start to pick out some of the areas that you think will be especially effective in your particular scenario. So to help with this, those of you who are familiar with my work know that I always like to start with a clear understanding of exactly what we're looking at, and who doesn't love a good definition. So for your use today, in its broader sense, management can be described as a process that involves planning, decision-making, organising, motivating, and controlling human resources to reach an organisation's goals efficiently and effectively. And that's the big picture. But in its simplest sense, management is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as the process of dealing with or controlling things or people. Now, controlling things is obviously a skill that's role specific and needs to be learnt based on your particular job requirements. So this is more of a technical skill. However, when it comes to people, this is very much our territory and something that we here at Integro can assist with. So for today, we're specifically examining the process of dealing with or controlling people in your team or organisation. Now, just quickly before we move on, I want to clarify that I know control and talking about control over people may sound a little bit negative to some of us, or it might have some negative connotations. However, I just quickly want to remind you of two core dimensions of DiSC when it comes to identifying the psychological needs and fears for each style. And this is illustrated in our DiSC theory model. So the DiSC theory model is one that I'm sure many of you are already familiar with. But what it's doing is it's examining the overarching needs and fears for each style based on the two dimensions that you see here. So on the horizontal dimension, we have the need for affiliation. And then on the vertical, we have the need for control, which is what we're discussing today. So what we can see is that those who sit in the top half of the DiSC model, those with a D or I style, tend to have a higher need for control, whereas those in the bottom half of the model, our C and S styles, will have a lower need for control, generally speaking. Now, I want to also specify here that needs are not linked to skills or capabilities. So neither your needs nor your DiSC style is an indication of your level of skill or suitability in a particular role. So therefore, having a D or an I style, and therefore a higher need for control, does not necessarily make for a better manager. So because DiSC doesn't indicate skill, it's just giving an insight into behavioral preferences and tendencies. So I don't want you to take away from this model that we should only be looking for D or I style managers because they have a high need for control. But remember that control is just one dimension of DiSC, and therefore any style can be an effective manager. And what I'm trying to highlight here is that we're not inferring that control is a bad thing, such as some social prejudice might infer, just that it's actually a natural component of our behavior. And while our need for it will vary based on style, we're all capable of demonstrating different levels of control, provided that we are first aware of our behavior. So with that definition of management, hopefully being a little bit clearer for you, as management is the process of dealing with or controlling things or people, then an effective manager is someone who does this well. Now, bearing this in mind, it's worth noting that Gallup recently found that the quality of managers and leaders is the single biggest factor in an organization's long-term success. Just to let that sink in, the quality of your managers and leaders is the single biggest factor for your organization's long-term success, which makes sense when we consider that people are an organization's biggest asset and resource. So we need to recognize that ongoing development is a key part of successful organizations, and even more so, developing those who are managing others. And equipping managers with the skills and insights to be as effective as possible is key, especially when you consider some of the challenges that they're facing every day. So for example, on a day-to-day basis, we need to consider how managers are having to engage in ensuring effective communication. They're having to deal with conflict, providing feedback, whether that's positive or negative. They need to effectively demonstrate empathy, so they're building relationships. They need to motivate their staff. They need to manage workload, which is not only their own workload, but that of others. So they need to be able to delegate as needed. They also need to develop talent throughout the organization and the team they're managing. So this is a lot on just a day-to-day basis. But on top of this, managers are now facing new and unprecedented changes and challenges, which are due to COVID and the impact that it's had on the business landscape over the last 22 months. And some of these factors, some of these challenges to bear in mind include, but are certainly not limited to, coordinating remote workforces and a new reliance on digital communication, managing a potential return to the office or adapting to flexible working arrangements, including adjusting workplace policies, company culture. They need to be able to manage workplace health and safety for their staff. So this could include things such as social distancing in the office, cleaning, compliance with government health guidelines. Also, on top of it all, market changes due to COVID, which may have impacted their business's place in the market. And so all of these factors are adding stress and workload to all of our managers. So we need to be able to make sure that we can empower and develop them as best we can. And we can do this by using the Everything DiSC management profile. So this profile uses the simplicity of DiSC, and it combines it with the compartmentalized learnings that we love from Wiley, which provide a clear and approachable learning pathway. It provides personalized insights to help you better understand yourself as a manager and also better understand the people that you're managing. So like I said, the technical ability of a manager falls to their role-specific skills, but this profile is the way that we can assist managers with the people aspect of their role and how they can get the most out of their employees. So how does it do this? Well, the program is focused on 3 key components, which the learner returns to throughout the profile. So it really enforces these components. First of all, we need to help managers understand themselves better in regards to their approach to management. So it does this by examining their DiSC style and what this means for their management experience. What will this look like? What will their most natural and reflexive behaviors be when it comes to tasks such as motivation, direction, delegation, providing feedback, managing tension, all these aspects involved in effective management. It's also examining how they can better understand others with regards to each of these components. So how do other styles like to be managed? How do they like to be directed and delegated to? What do they find motivating? So after all, we're managing people. And so to effectively do this, we need to have a solid grasp of the people that we're managing and what their needs and preferences are, as well as recognizing how these might differ from our own so that we can build more effective relationships. And this is the final and overarching focus of the management profile, how we can build more effective relationships to improve our effectiveness as managers. So what we're going to do now is walk through the profile so that I can illustrate how it does this and how it approaches this in a really nice and approachable way. So what it does is it starts by providing some self-reflection on how we can understand ourselves better. So we have this narrative that's completely personalized to us based on our survey responses, and it's called our Dot Tells a Story. So this is the narrative used to explain our style and what this looks like for you. So specifically in regards to your management style. And if we bring this back to our definition of management, you can think of this as the self-control component of management. The more aware you are of yourself, the better able you will be to control your response to people and events. Next up, we look at what our priorities as a manager are. So this structure, you'll notice so far from our narrative and looking at our priorities, it's very similar to that of the workplace profile, and that's done intentionally. But the focus of this profile is speaking specifically to management. So it's specifically about your management experience. And you'll notice here that the priorities around the edge of the Everything DiSC management map have changed slightly. So your shading and priorities are going to be different in this profile, or they may be different in this profile. So for example, the I style's enthusiasm priority is now encouragement. The CS style's stability is now reliability. C style's accuracy priority becomes objectivity. And the D style focuses on results, but this shows up as drive in the management profile. So this is because management requires a different expression of focus for our energy. However, understanding what these priorities are and what they mean for us in a management sense will help us understand our strengths, our automatic tendencies, and the things that we need to be aware of so that we can manage this and also learn to stretch outwards towards priorities that we may not naturally demonstrate so that we can improve our management effectiveness. So still focusing on understanding ourselves better, we can also learn more about what we will most likely enjoy about managing. So these are things that will most likely end up being strengths or tasks that we gravitate to. But we also look at what might drain our energy as a manager. And this is good to be aware of because these are tasks that we're likely to avoid, whether that's subconsciously or consciously. These are factors that will affect your approach to management, and the better you understand how you will naturally approach tasks and your natural tendencies to this, the better able you will be to manage yourself and therefore others. So this self-awareness is very, very important, and it's a recurring theme throughout all of our DiSC profiles. So everything DiSC management is no different. We need to first learn how to understand ourselves better so that we can understand others. So now that we understand our overall general management approach, we start to get into some of the more specific actions involved with managing. So here we're starting with directing and delegating others. Now, what do we mean by direct and delegate? This is how a manager assigns responsibilities and oversees the performance of their team members to ensure they achieve their assigned goals. The intent of this section of the profile is also to enforce the importance of direction and delegation in effective management. This isn't something we can ignore or avoid because it comes back to that day-to-day management challenge that I mentioned at the start, which was managing workload. When you become a manager, you take on more responsibilities. And so others need to be reassigned, other responsibilities need to be reassigned to ensure that all tasks are dedicated the appropriate amount of time and attention that they require. So this is one aspect that nicely combines control of both people and tasks in a way. If we think back to my original definition of management, we are controlling people to in turn control tasks. So the Everything DiSC management profile provides an understanding of your own approach to directing and delegating, how you will approach this, and also what your strengths and challenges might be when approaching directing and delegating. So this provides us with a really good understanding of what our own approach is likely to be, as well as things to be aware of. So now that we have this and we understand ourselves and how we will most likely want to direct and delegate, we can move into the second layer of the profile, which is how to better understand others. And this is done in regards to direction and delegation by the next 4 pages of the profile, showing you how to adapt your natural approach to each of the 4 primary styles, which allows you to be more effective in directing and delegating. So what does it look like to direct and delegate to the D style or the I, S, and C styles? And it provides specific tips on how managers can better direct and delegate to their employees by using DiSC as a guide And when it comes to improving effectiveness, it even considers the experience level of the person that you're managing. So here you can see it has a section that looks at if they're less experienced or if they're more experienced. So you can actually adapt your approach based on their level of skill and seniority. And this is an invaluable addition to the profile because, as we touched on at the beginning, DiSC does not necessarily infer a particular level of skill. So this addition to the profile allows you to tailor your approach based on the insights of DiSC, but also combined with your personal knowledge of your team and the people that you're working with so that you can get to the most beneficial outcome. So we can look at how you can be most effective with every person on your team, no matter what their style is. So learning to recognize each style's working preferences, as well as identifying potential problems to be aware of and how to be most effective in addressing these potential problems. Next up, I touch on motivation. This is also a large part of management and the environment that you create for your team. So what does that look like? And here we return back to working on our understanding of self first. So what is the environment that we will create based on our DiSC style? What are our natural tendencies when it comes to motivation and the environment that we're creating? So as you can imagine, this can vary greatly. So if we take, for example, a C-style manager, they have a natural emphasis on objectivity, reliability, and challenge. And so therefore, they're probably going to gravitate to creating a very steady and focused environment versus potentially an I-style manager who is most likely going to be more outwardly encouraging, collaborative, faster paced, a very different focus. All right, so we need to understand what our focus will be and what the natural environment that we're creating is. And understanding this natural approach allows you to reflect and examine how this works for your team, as well as start thinking about when you might need to adapt this approach. And to help you learn when and how to adapt your approach, you can also learn more about what your team needs in terms of their motivational needs and the environment that they enjoy. So again, here you can see an example of motivation and the D style. So what does this look like? What are their motivational needs? What demotivates them? How does conflict affect them? How can you help create a motivating environment for each style? All right, so what's going to be important to them and how can you get the most out of them? And it also touches on what the best way for you to deliver recognition and reward to each style might be. And all of these are important considerations when it comes to motivating and engaging your team. You need to remain in control of the environment that you're creating in order to control the people working within that environment. Now, as we all know, one of the biggest responsibilities of management is developing others to progress their skills and their positions within the organisation, as well as maintaining staff engagement. So this is really important because I'm sure we're all aware that personal growth and development is often identified as a key driver of employee engagement. So we need to really be continuing this and ensuring that our staff feel as if they're being developed. So first of all, we need to take that step back and understand ourselves better and what our natural style, based on our DiSC style, how we are likely to approach employee development. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of your natural approach? So again, we're really looking at our self-awareness and self-understanding. So this is where you as a manager need to be able to exert that control over your team so that you can influence and develop them to the best of your abilities. But before we can learn about how we do that, we need to learn what we're naturally going to do as a manager, okay? And also, what are the advantages and potential disadvantages of that natural approach, okay? So maybe some areas that we might have blinkers on and that we really need to be aware of or return our focus back to. So once you've got a solid understanding of this or an awareness of your own approach, then we can start to learn about the areas where our employees are likely to have strong potential based on their own style and their natural priorities, so the areas that they have strong potential, as well as potential obstacles to their development. All right, so we need to be aware of strengths and potential obstacles. And what the profile then does is it provides 3 strategies that we can use as managers to overcome these potential obstacles. Okay, so based on their priorities, what are potential obstacles going to be, and how can we avoid them to ensure that we're building effective relationships and developing those team members, so overcoming the obstacles. All right. Now, a final aspect of management that I want to touch on, and what this profile also delivers, is that there's very, very few people in the working world who are able to sit at the very, very top of an organizational structure and who don't report to anyone else. But for the vast majority of workers, we all report to someone and we're all managed by someone. So we have our own manager who's exerting control over us and holding us accountable. And it's very important, but very often overlooked, to be able to develop your skills in managing upwards. So we're not just managing downwards to our own teams, but we're also managing upwards. All right. And this is really important for our self-development. And again, coming back to that key component, we want to keep ourselves engaged, we want to keep ourselves motivated, and we need to manage upwards as well as downwards. All right. So the management profile does this by going over how your manager sees you. All right. So it examines how your manager will most likely view you, and also identifies what their priorities and preferences are, how you can effectively advocate and get buy-in from them, as well as how to deal with conflict when necessary, which is all based on their DiSC style. So the combination of your DiSC style to theirs and what this will look like. And so this is providing participants with the ability and the strategies to work effectively with their managers and to maintain control of all of their direct relationships, whether that's moving upwards or downwards, all right? And that's what makes this profile so well-rounded and applicable to everyone. And so on that note, I do want to come back and enforce again that there's no particular style that necessarily makes a better manager than any other style, all right? We know that this doesn't account for education, life experiences, and maturity. So these are all factors that also contribute to management and that we need to be aware of. But what this profile does is it's able to hold a bit of a mirror up, and it encourages self-reflection. It also then encourages us to think about what our team needs. So what the people that we manage need from us and how we can deliver that to them in the most effective way possible by using DiSC and understanding what our tendencies and the tendencies of other people will be, all right? So whether you have been in management for many, many years, whether you're a seasoned manager, you're just starting out in a management role, or potentially even you're just aspiring to move into management, when we use DiSC to understand and succeed, all styles, regardless of what their go-to behaviors and natural tendencies might be, can be effective as managers. All right, so we can use DiSC to improve our management effectiveness and create great managers with those 3 steps. So becoming more self-aware and understanding ourselves better, understanding others, so understanding the people that we manage, and then developing better relationships, all right? So improving our relationships. As I mentioned, it's all about people. And as managers, we can have a massive impact on the people that we're leading. So we need to be sure that we have the right approach, and this profile provides the outline for how you can do that. So if you wanted to get started or try out the Everything DiSC Management profile, there are also a number of resources that are available to use in conjunction with it. So we have our facilitator and group culture reports if you're delivering this to a group or team of managers. There's the comparison reports, which are fantastic for relationship building. And comparison reports can also be used between different profiles. So for example, if you've completed a management profile and you'd like to do a comparison with one of your team members who's done a workplace profile, that's also possible, and you can work on your direct relationship that way. And the other resource that I want to focus on a bit is the facilitator kit, which for this particular profile, it's especially valuable. So we've just covered off so much content and what that profile delivers, you know, in terms of motivating staff, directing, delegating, managing upwards, all of these components of management. Throughout this, the profile is jam-packed with strategies, things to be aware of, things to learn, preferences based on style, but there's not actually any action planning or space for writing out development notes throughout the profile. So there's no prompts in there. It provides all of the information, but depending how self-directed you are, then there's not actually anywhere to, there's no outlined action planning or development section. However, this comes as part of the kit. So in the kit, the handouts are a massive resource. So the kit actually contains 15 pages of handouts and of action planning and development notes that you can use with your managers in conjunction with the profile to help them develop themselves in all aspects of management and understand their approach, and also come away with a really clear direction. So those 15 pages of action planning pairs up really nicely with the profile and all of the aspects that they're working on, and helps to provide them with that really clear outline for what they're going to do post-session. All right, so definitely something that's worth thinking about. And post-training, we always like to provide a way to keep DiSC alive in the organisation. So obviously this isn't something that we want people to go through the management profile and then just leave and forget about it. So you have two options. We have myeverythingdisc.com, which lets you communicate and compare styles with colleagues, refer back to key points within your profile, learn a little bit more about your style and your management experience, and engage throughout your entire organisation. So this is to create a lasting impact and help you get the most out of your DiSC profiles. But also soon, we don't have an exact date, but very soon we hope that the management profile is also going to be added and available on the Catalyst platform, Everything DiSC on Catalyst. So keep an eye out on our newsletters and mailings, and we will keep you updated as to when this becomes available on Catalyst, and you'll be able to access that one. And lastly, if you do already own a management kit, or if you're looking to purchase a management kit, Wiley has actually released a virtual guide which accompanies this, with the intent to assist in transitioning facilitation, which is usually face-to-face, into virtual delivery. So if you own a kit, but you don't already have a copy of this virtual facilitation guide, then please feel free to reach out to the support team and you can request a copy of that. And so just to wrap up, you know, these webinars are intended to give you a really good overview and high-level understanding of the profile. However, we are available as a support resource. So if you have any interest in diving into the profile a little bit deeper, or you'd like to have a bit of a discussion around how you can use the management profile and how you can apply it in your organisation, then please feel free to get in touch. So you can contact us through that support@integro.com.au, and we'll be able to arrange a discussion with you and answer any of your questions. You can also download a sample of the management profile from your Epic account or from our Integro website, and have a look through there so you can see that real high level of content and that high level of detail. So hopefully that covers everything for today. Please feel free, we will do a couple of minutes of Q&A, and if there's any questions. We do have one, which is that do you need to complete the workplace profile ahead of the management profile? And the answer is no. All of the Everything DiSC profiles are designed that they can be used in conjunction with one another as building blocks, in which case the workplace is a really good place to start. However, they can also be used individually. And so as you would have seen through all those screen grabs that we went through, the profile, it is written, it's completely personalized, it's very approachable, and it's very easy to understand. So while there's a high level of depth there, it is quite a simple and approachable profile that you can use. Another question we have Josh asking if a copy of the presentation will be made available. Yes, Josh, the recording of this session will be sent out to everyone who registered, and we do try to publish all of our webinars on our website. So if you go to the integro.com.au website, we actually have a page dedicated to webinars, past webinars. So you can have a look through those, and also a page dedicated to our blogs if you're interested in reading up some more information via any of our educational blogs. Would love you to jump on and have a look at that. Another question we have from Mel, just confirming that it is 25 EPIC credits per profile and the supplement is free and comparison reports to go with the management profile. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for clarifying. I mentioned the resources that went with the profile without touching on the pricing, but yes, the management profile is 25 EPIC credits to generate. And it comes with the management profile. Your supplement for facilitators report comes included in that 25 credits cost, and also unlimited free comparison reports. So comparison reports which can be generated between any 2 DiSC profiles, and there's no limit on the number of comparisons you can generate, and there's also no cost that goes with that. So thank you very much for that one. Let's see, and then what's the difference? We have Judy asking, what is the difference between the management and the work of leaders profile? That's a really good question. I suppose the simplest way to explain it is that we view management as one-on-one. So being able to direct and control one-on-one relationships, whereas leadership is more of a one-to-many approach. And definitely if you're interested in the work of leaders profile, we do have a recent webinar on that one, so I'd suggest checking out our website. And work of leaders is actually looking through the approaches that you need for effective management, so crafting a vision for your organisation, getting alignment on that vision, and executing it through alignment. So there's a webinar and a blog actually on that one, so you can have a read through. So I believe that is everything. If there are any other questions that potentially we haven't gotten to today, please feel free. Like I said, you can shoot an email through to support@integro.com.au, or my email is samantha@integro.com.au. So thank you very much for joining me, and we hope to see you on another webinar again soon. Thanks, guys.